experience
Where
together.
we eating?
Like,
how we gonna do this?
yeah,
You don't want to be
what we
like,
cooking?
oh, I'm gonna have protein tonight, 13 grams. Like
Yeah.
nobody wants to do that shit, right? Like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I know one of my clients particularly, his girlfriend is on a routine. He's on a routine that differs,
Right.
and they're both on it, which is
They just send
interesting,
a
right?
different- yeah,
So
in a
now
different way.
that's constant communication.
For sure.
Like constant communication as far as like, okay, where can we find that midway point?
Yeah.
So explain to me the difference in food approaches and how you guys kind of navigate. Yo, what up? Thanks for locking in and welcome to Gym Life. This is Jyima.
And it's your girl, Sophia. Today, we're going to talk about exercise and relationships.
Oh, really interesting stuff. Let's vibe out. Yo, what up, So?
What up, Jyima?
Ready to get it in?
Oh, I'm ready.
Listen,
I'm
I got
ready.
a good functional movement-based workout for us to do today.
Okay.
We'll go through some stretching first, and then we're going to get into our topic. And you know, it's always cool. What I like about these is anytime we've been missing each other, as far as like you running here, I'm running there.
Yep.
We use this time to record and catch up.
It's like killing two birds with one stone, right?
Seriously. We're gonna start with a adductor stretch, going side to side. So today we're gonna go through stretching first. After that, we got functional moves where we're gonna have one dumbbell. We'll go lunge curl left side, lunge curl right side,
Okay.
rows on the right side, rows on the left side. Then we're gonna go for squats.
Okay.
I did a nice long run yesterday, so I got my cardio.
Oh, you got your cardio in yesterday?
Yeah.
Well, I took a pole dancing class last night.
How was that?
It was interesting.
Yeah?
But honestly, I'd only taken it once before when I was in Boston.
Okay.
I just remember having like mad bruises. Like the next day I was training people at the gym. They're like, what did you do? But it was good.
Yeah?
It was just the basic stuff, you know.
Is it now, I'd be so interested for someone like yourself who's in shape and lifts and does cardio and everything, how would you rate the intensity of was it tough?
Honestly, I did pretty good. It really shows like how much you really need the upper body strength, but also like it definitely gives you. For me, I give mad respect to pole dancers because that's a lot. Strength wise, like that's
upper body, lower body, or same?
upper body.
Upper body strength?
For sure, upper body, core strength. But it's also knowing where to place yourself. What I learned last night is like how to, like you have to have a good amount of distance from the pole to be able to control that momentum. But yeah, I just got mad respect for women or people that do that because it's a lot of strength. But for me, I've been, I do my training, so it does.
You were able to adjust.
I was able to adjust.
Okay.
They were like, "Oh, she's done this." I was like, "Oh, Sophie," they're like, "Sophie, you've done this before."
You're like, "I'm good. I got this. Easy work."
Easy work, light work.
Oh, so that's cool. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So now, I know we haven't gotten a chance to catch up, especially on this particular topic. As far as you being a trainer and now being in a relationship that is like in that cruise control, killing it, communication is dope.
Yeah.
Like, what's it like, or what was it like initially? And then I would like to know where it is now, as far as you being a trainer and now getting to know someone, becoming stable, being in a locked-in relationship, incorporating exercise and romance and relationships. What was it like initially, and then kind of like where is it now? But let's start with initially.
Initially, it's definitely a learning curve because as I was telling you, I think yesterday or the other day, right? Everything a lot of it has to do with communication.
Okay.
Right? So I was telling you about like, for me, my mom was the kind of person that she would like suppress a lot of her frustrations and then kind of like blame it on my dad for not knowing, not being able to read her mind.
Okay.
And so when it comes to, for me, what I've observed recently, or just from this whole experience, initially I would kind of just assume that, oh yeah, like my partner sees me as a trainer, he should know like that's the thing that I do.
Okay.
But
initially, that's what you thought.
Initially, it's like, yeah.
Like this is obviously what I do, and you should understand at what capacity I do this.
Yeah, I should already know. Which he does to a certain capacity, but it's still on my part, it's still on me to communicate like, okay, you know what, this week I've been feeling kind of like low on energy. I need to, I've been kind of falling off of my routine, and it's important for me to get this one other word, like, you know what I mean? Because it's like, at first it was just like assumptions. You know, it's a lot of assumptions, and it's never good. And so that
when you say assumptions, what do you mean by assumptions?
Assumptions like your partner's supposed to know how you're feeling, your partner's supposed to be able to feel it out. Especially as a woman, I think as women, we just like think that guys can read our minds. But
no.
You know, it's like, well, you can't, how you supposed, you don't know this? And they're thinking like everything's good. You know, and the same thing with my dad. Like, my dad is the type of like, unless you really spell it out for him, he's not gonna know.
Right.
You know? So.
And I guess the understanding that in other aspects of the relationship, the person is caring and understanding and listens.
Yeah.
So chances are, if you communicate those things, they will stay in line with their character.
Yeah, and every time I would tell Chris like something that was bothering me, he would always make the adjustment and take notes. Wow. So it's not like he wouldn't make the adjustments, you know?
Right.
But yeah, it's been, the communication, I would say for sure has been like the key.
Okay, so in the beginning, it was some adjusting. You taking time to realize if there was something off. It's not that he has an issue with you working out or doing anything.
Right.
It's more that you have to make sure you communicate it so he has a clear understanding.
Yeah, and that you always have more control over how you're feeling than you think. Because a lot of times, like when we have somebody else involved, you know, it's easier to put the blame on them. You know what I'm saying? If I'm not feeling good, I'm like, dang, because like I was trying to hang out with you, or like I'm trying to spend time, but it's like, that's on me.
Yeah.
That's on you. You know, so you always have control, and yeah, communication control. But then at the same time too, like when you're in the beginning of any relationship, it's always gonna be like, there's gonna be like a trial and error phase where you're trying to feel yourself out. And I talk to our other clients about this that get into relationships. The beginning is like, you know, like the infatuation is there for sure. You want to spend as much time with them as you can. You're building.
Right.
You're building that foundation. And then at some point you kind of have to like recalibrate and make sure that you're also tending to your own needs. You know, what you know is important to you. For me, what I know is important for me, and he knows that too, is to work out, right? Yeah. So like if I'm not working out, if I'm not feeling good about myself or my body, not only is it going to take a toll on me, but it's going to take a toll on our relationship.
On your relationship.
Yeah.
Was there any instances particular in the beginning where you noticed there was miscommunication, and that if you probably had communicated earlier, I see you smiling.
Because you said, is there an instance? I'm like, many instances.
Many instances. Yeah. I think stories are always good to kind of like embody and kind of display how those things could happen. So is there anything that comes to mind as far as like a conflict or instance?
Man, I want to make sure I'm remembering things correctly, because he has such a good memory. So if I say something and it's not accurate,
well, whatever you have that's inaccurate, remember I'm gonna have him on here.
Oh yeah, okay,
and I'm sure he'll be able to clear it up.
He'll correct it.
So feel free to speak freely, and anything you missed, we're good.
We're gonna get to clear it up anyway.
Yeah, we'll get to clear it up. So.
I don't know if there's a specific example, but I just remember like it became a routine for me to train here in the morning, train our clients in the morning, teach class, come back home, and we would have breakfast together. Okay. Right?
Okay, that's your
thing. And then come back and then we would go about our days and do whatever we needed to do. Okay. But I just remember one instance, like there's a couple of instances actually, that I would just be like, man, I feel so fat. Like, I feel so heavy. And I would kind of like, in my head, I would kind of like blame it on the fact that we got into a routine of eating pancakes.
This is why stories are good, because you told me that there was miscommunication, but now you tell me the story, now I can see it so much clearer. So
yeah, for sure.
Here he is just ready to have your breakfast. He doesn't have any idea that you're having this battle going on.
For
in
the
your
most
head?
part, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
But
Okay, so go
he
ahead.
can really sense things. Like
Okay.
that's the thing. So that's why I can never get away. Everything comes to light when it comes to us because he's very intuitive.
Okay.
So he would
But I don't want to
already
interrupt your story.
know.
So go back to what
He
you're
would
saying.
already
So
know something's up.
Something's off. You're feeling fat because you have this new routine. Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, but it was like we squashed it though because I think there
But
was
tell me
something
what
about
happened though.
rest.
I want to know you're
Oh,
feeling fat. So now it must hit a head at some moment.
yeah.
Like, so do you just like have an attitude, or do you like what happens for it to
Have
come
you
to
seen
this head?
Sophia with an attitude? Have you seen Sophia? I'm just
haven't
asking
met
a
her.
question.
No,
Jimmy, you know
no.
me 6 years, right?
Yeah.
But when you get in a relationship, you see the ugly parts of you. The ugly parts
Oh.
start to come out. If it's not addressed, it starts to come out. So there's times where I wouldn't like say anything.
So now you have
And
an attitude.
I'll be giving him the evil eye. He's like,
Because you
"Why are
feel
giving-"
off.
Yeah, he'd be like, why are you giving me
Okay.
the evil eye? It's not necessary. But like,
What's going on?
I give you that? Like, I would just be like, I do? But in my mind, I'm like, I do be giving them the evil eye. Like, damn, I need to do better.
Right,
You know? So,
right.
but for a while, I was so comfortable with like, it's not me. It's like just this. Like, you know? But yeah, we had to address
Okay,
that.
so obviously you're feeling some type of way because you're not on your normal routine. He doesn't know that you're feeling this way, and of course it comes to a head like, oh, could you pass the tea? No, right? Like something happens, right?
We're doing this again.
This
Like,
again?
we're gonna have pancakes again.
That's so interesting. So then now you sit down and talk after it comes to this.
It would get addressed as we're going about our day, or like sometimes at the end of the day, you know, when you're just catching up, and then we would just like, it would just be like a regular conversation.
Okay.
And then he would just say like, you know, I see that this is important to you. Let's go out for a walk. Things like that. And that's when I was like, oh, he's taking notes, but also it's on me to communicate with him.
Right.
Because it's not
right.
like, it'd be different and I'm like communicating to my partner, this is what I need, and he's just not observing that or not honoring it
It's a whole
and not
different
doing anything
conversation.
about it.
It's
Like
a
not
whole
making
different
the adjustments. Because you could acknowledge it and not make the adjustment, right? But he would always make the adjustment and be like, yeah, let's go for a walk or like do this. And if that wasn't enough for me, it's still on me to say something.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's definitely been a learning curve. But I will also say, like, giving myself grace is also important because I'm also learning this it's a whole different dynamic.
Right,
you know, when
right.
you're so used to moving on your own,
Right.
and that's what it's been for me in LA. Like
Right.
last 6 years,
That is
yeah,
me.
it's
I figured
situations,
this out.
ships here and there, but
Yeah.
ultimately, you see me. I could still come back to the gym any day, any time
Right.
of the day, because
Do
I'm
what
not
you
tied
want.
to anybody.
Or
But
anything,
now it's like
right.
you can't run away from that person because you still got to deal with him.
Right.
And
right.
you got to deal with yourself, and then deal with your partner. You know.
You know what I hear, and like what I love about our community here, and you know the clients, the trainers, everything is we don't only emphasize health in terms of fitness. We also emphasize health in terms of communication.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing from you is the adjustments you made is realizing that you can't hold somebody accountable for something they just weren't privy to.
Exactly.
Right?
Never.
So it's,
Never.
you know what I mean? So even if you want to have an issue with your partner, it should be after you've communicated, at least give them that opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost
Yeah.
like as I start to get in that space, like, dang, are they noticing? Or let me at least communicate that one thing to give them a chance to respond according to the information.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So go back.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think in a relationship, there's always going to be somebody who's going to be the better communicator. There's always, you know, so I think it just showed how much work I needed as far as like needed on communication.
Yes.
But I can't say that it's never happened before. You know what I mean? But this one, I really had to address it.
You had to address.
I really had to address it because it's a serious relationship. Like if it wasn't a serious relationship, I could always walk away.
Right.
You know, and be like, man, forget that. Forget him. Like, you know, I don't have to explain anything.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. And I think that's also important is also realizing that communication is such an abstract term, right? Because when we're talking about two people in a relationship, you have different styles of communication. And I always think that it's each person's job to kind of learn the other person's style.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
someone may be better at like getting their point across. And it's funny because when I'm in a relationship, I'm very good at getting my point across.
Oh yeah, you have
very good. So
very thorough.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I make sure that I don't overutilize that. Does that make sense? Because now I have to make sure that I'm doing equal work to make sure it's almost like an even playing field where I'm not just using my ability to like express myself over her inability to express herself verbally. She may have other ways of doing it.
Right.
And then I think that's what makes things a little bit more easier to navigate, you know?
And also that's perfect. But also like knowing how do I say this? It's the delivery is everything.
Huge.
If you're already pissed and you're trying to communicate something, chances are it's not going to get through them.
Right.
But if we always say this, like me and Chris always say is before we even start really bickering or having our disagreements is to like sometimes we'll pray before we even argue.
Wow.
So we'll pray because it's like everything has to be said with love.
Yeah.
And it's so much harder than said, right? But when you set the intention that, okay, like obviously I love this person loves me, nobody's trying to fight, nobody's trying to, we're on the same side, which is like for me, like was so hard from the jump because I was always like, this person is not for me. I'm on my own.
Whoa,
like
you know
at the end of the day, I got me. But it's like, oh no, I cannot. That mentality cannot work because you're gonna literally fight like you're on your own, like you're battling somebody that you sleep with on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I remember we had a conversation. It's like when you talk about somebody that you're with, like you guys are on the same side.
Supposed to be on the same team.
You're supposed to be on the same team.
Supposed to be on the same team. 100%.
Yeah. So when you're communicating or just like talking out your disagreements, like it's always, you definitely want to set out the intention. Like this is okay. We're saying this out of love.
Yes.
Ultimately, even with the emotions, feelings involved, it's still out of love.
Yeah.
You know?
It's important.
Yeah.
What was Chris's exercise background prior to you guys getting together?
Oh, he's a dancer.
Okay. So active, super active.
Yeah.
Okay, so dancer.
He's a dancer. He loves boxing when he works out.
Okay.
He does a lot of calisthenics.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what he used to. He's from New York. He always says like, we'll do some pull-ups on the traffic light and just easy, like it's nothing.
So very different from what you're used to. You're like gym workouts, coordinated.
Gym rat.
Today I'm doing this, today I'm doing that. Versus his is more like organic, just moving on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Which is like both are very active adults.
Yeah.
But now how do you kind of communicate that difference between the both like approaches to moving?
That's a great question. I really had to stretch my mind because when you get in such a routine, you're thinking like this is the only way. And we're so used to telling our clients, get in the gym, 3 days a week is good, 4 or 5 days is good.
Right.
Get your cardio in, however you want to do it outside the gym. Like the normal, like a standard program. Right? Because it's just easier for people to do that. But when you're somebody who's active and you just have other ways to be active in life, we got to be open to that too. Because honestly, ultimately, that's really how it should be.
Yes.
You and I both know, we talk about blue zones all the time where people are like have longevity because of their lifestyles. Not because they go to the gym.
No.
So I had to be like, okay, this has been my life for the last few years being a trainer, but that's not the only way to stay fit.
Right.
So
it's almost like somebody who surfs or goes on hikes.
Right.
Whatever,
goes fishing, or
all those things.
Or dances. Even them, they still have to have a routine. But I can't. It's just unrealistic for me to be like, all right, just because I'm a trainer, I need my partner to be with me doing every goddamn workout.
So it's really like honoring each person's approach to however they move. And then sometimes I guess you may have one person who may be like, look, you don't have to go to the gym, but the gym works for you.
Yeah.
And then you want to say to him, well, hey, don't go do your activities because that's what works for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So that's what I meant by having to stretch my mind or my mentality. So I had to, just reminding myself that is like, okay, all right, it just has a different way.
Yeah.
And even other areas of like things that we do things differently. okay, that's just the way they're gonna do it.
That's the way
Like
they're
we
gonna
don't
do it,
have to love the same restaurants. We don't have to
Right.
love the same foods to even be together.
Food.
But a lot of
Let's go there. Food. What
Wait.
was that? You're laughing. That's it's funny, and I'm gonna tell you what sticks into my mind, right? You know, over the years, I've trained so many couples.
Yeah,
So
I
many
don't actually
couples.
want to hear your
Right?
stories.
Oh, so
Yeah.
many.
How do they do it?
in the point of contention,
Yeah.
so many times. When I say contention, I don't mean heated arguments. I mean just like conflict, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like food. Because you remember, such an important part of relationships is going out to eat, food that you enjoy.
Yeah.
You don't want to
food
be
is
on
like
some
60-70% of your experience
where
together.
we eating?
Like,
How are we gonna do this?
yeah,
You don't want to be
what we
like,
cooking?
oh, I'm gonna have protein tonight, 13 grams. You're like, nobody wants to do that shit, right? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I know one of my clients, particularly, his girlfriend is on a routine. He's on a routine that differs,
Right.
and they're both on it, which is interesting, right?
Yeah,
so now
different way.
that's constant communication.
For sure.
Like constant communication as far as like, okay, where can we find that midway point?
Yeah.
So explain to me the difference in food approaches and how you guys kind of navigated that. And then we'll start with the lunch curl.
I'm gonna go out to say that I think both of us had to come to terms individually as to how we were gonna, respect each other's like preferences. Not just him and not just me.
Okay.
Right. So, and what I mean by that, like, if we come to an agreement, all right, Chris says, I'll eat my pancakes, you eat whatever you feel is healthy for you.
Okay.
I also gotta respect him if he's craving donuts.
Right.
I've learned to just like, you know what? That's his thing.
That's his thing. Right.
That's his thing. It's not like I'm super against that anyway.
Right.
But to me, I will give him mad like props for even like if I cook something healthy, there's never a time he doesn't try anything that I make. Okay. He's so open to health, like healthy foods now, and he's the one promoting sea moss to his friends. If he doesn't have his sea moss in the morning, he's like, man, babe, where's the sea moss? And so it's just I can't say that he's not open, and so we both had to. I had to just submit, to the flow. And let him come to terms with what he thinks is healthy for him, Right. I'm influencing him. The only thing I can really do is influence. I can't, like the saying, you can lead the horse to the water, but you can't make the horse drink the water. It's kind of like that. And I had to come to, terms with that. You know what I mean? So it's not like he doesn't eat anything healthy. You know what I'm saying?
It's just different.
It's just different. And he's in his own journey. Just like how I'm in my own journey. And the really interesting about him, and I'm sure he'll probably give you his story, is that he wasn't, he's just now at a point in his life where he's taking care of his body more. So it's also been a transformation for him. So I just also have to be patient. This is somebody that was coming from always being at the studio, drinking, smoking weed, all that stuff, right? And he's now super open. Now he's prioritizing his body. He's prioritizing his relationship. So I also have to be like, I can see what my role is, but I also have to be patient. Because it's not something that's gonna happen overnight.
Of course. You know what you said I never even thought of, and I'm not even sure if you know what you stumbled on.
What'd I say?
Is it's that balance, I think, of relationships between individuality and the combination of two people.
Yeah.
And I think what you notice is the individuality in the sense where no matter how much we want to do everything together, we have two completely different body types. So we shouldn't have the same diet.
You're a man, I'm a woman. So
our diet should not be exactly the same. Our goals are different, our lifestyles are different, the way we process food is different. So it is okay as long as we're sitting down together, and I think that's where the togetherness comes.
And our backgrounds are different.
Right, exactly. Backgrounds are different. It's like you have what works for you, I have what works for me. We eat it together, right? And anytime that becomes an alignment, like we both want this particular, then we'll have those things together. But I think having foods that are exactly the same for the purpose of togetherness is only going to hurt each person. So I like with the fact that you said, like, okay, he'll have his pancakes one time, and then you may have something else. And then, okay, maybe one day you have pancakes, maybe one day he has, the
Yeah.
smoothie, whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? So I love that, and I think that's a balance that we should be constantly trying to strike.
Yeah,
right?
I will add on to that. It's so crazy because you know how like we're both Christians, we're people of faith. One thing that is even in the Bible, even Jesus says like, don't condemn somebody who's a vegan over vegetarian. Like if these people don't eat meat, don't try to like disrespect them or dishonor them by eating meat in front of their faces and trying to get them to do that. And then on the other hand, the people that don't eat, like so I can't remember like the exact scripture, but it's like even in the Bible it says like don't condemn somebody or judge somebody for being vegan or a meat eater or a non-meat eater.
Right.
It's even there. So it's just like, if we're supposed to be non-judgmental people, we're supposed to really practice that, this is where it gets to be applied.
Yeah.
You can't judge somebody's journey just because you're not there. And like, you can't expect somebody to understand as well. Like, or just, if you want somebody to understand you,
you have to
understand them as well.
Right. And sometimes it requires you to take that first step.
Yeah.
Like, don't always wait. You know what I mean? And I know you're asking about like working with couples. What makes it complex working with couples, and that's why I say you have individuality and you have togetherness. What makes it complex sometimes if you have two people together is how your lifestyle impacts your health, impacts me. So now I've had certain couples where it's like she's like, or he, depends on the situation, they need to watch what they eat because I don't want to take care of them. When we get older, when it's something that could have been prevented, right? So it's like there's situations where honestly one partner is on it. They're working out, they're eating the right things, and other partners just doing whatever they want. But that other partner may end up in the hospital, they may end up sick, right? And not saying that it couldn't happen to the partner that's healthy, but just chances are chronic illnesses, things that are preventable, the one who's not doing those things is gonna end up to them. So now they're like, hey, listen, I need you to get onto a little bit more of a structured regimen so that I'm not, like constantly taking you to the hospital or having to take care of you because you're sick. So that's another part that I think always needs to be addressed, is at least making sure that we're trying to have a lifestyle where we show up as our best selves as long as possible.
You know what that just reminded me of?
What's that?
I know I told you, like, you know how I told you we started, or we got into like the whole series of Best Man?
Oh, Best Man. Okay.
So I know you've seen the movie, right?
I've seen the movie, but I haven't seen the series.
Okay, you gotta see the series. You know when?
Does it have all the same characters?
Oh yeah, everybody's on there.
Okay.
Nyla, like everybody. Remember Shelby, the one that's like, she's like hoish, like she's like the very glam one.
Oh yeah.
And it's always with Q. Right. So I don't want to give too much away, but they end up getting together, right?
Okay.
So in their married life, there's one episode where he starts having a heart attack.
Shut up.
And so she's like now like being the wife, like she's being a great wife. She's doing her job. And so of course she's like, I can't afford for this to happen again. So she starts cooking vegan food at home. She's taking care of him, making sure he doesn't smoke or drink, because the doctor's like, no more alcohol. But he gets very triggered sometimes, and he'll get like kind of offended, like, I just need my alcohol, And so I think he has another episode, I think, or so he thought. Right, and then towards the end of the episode, he's like, I just realized, like, because he was getting mad at her for cooking him all these meals, not letting him drink alcohol. But then towards the end, he realized, oh wow, she just really just doesn't want me to die.
Right.
It's simple. Like, my wife doesn't want me to die, so of course she's gonna be on it. So it's nothing against him. It's just, man, like you see your partner going, a life and death situation, almost dying, like that's you gonna make sure you take care of him.
Oh, of course. Of course.
But that was a funny. You got to see that episode. It was it actually is hilarious. The way they depicted that was funny.
It's funny you say that, because it's so interesting when you have these conversations and certain things you say will spark other thoughts. And what you made me think about is my mother and my father, where my father, Ghanaian, and the Ghanaian diet. I'm gonna be very careful because I'm treading on thin ice as I start to talk about the Ghanaian diet.
Right.
I could hear them already ready to get after me. But it's very oily. Okay. Very like carb heavy.
Carb heavy, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even the vegetables are like, fried, all this. So
right.
So that diet, in combination with like other things, has my father in certain places where his health isn't the best. I'm treading on thin ice because this has been a place of contention for the two of them, and I'm not choosing any sides here, okay? I'm not choosing any sides.
Hear that, Mom? Hear that?
I'm not choosing any sides.
Right.
But her whole thing to me is she'll call me and be like, how do I get him to do this? How do I get him to do this? Because he's sick, he was in the hospital, he had a heart attack, all these things that happen. And she's like, this is impacting me. How do I get him to do this? And one thing that I think we've learned in working with clients over extended amounts of time is you can't force anybody to do anything.
Never.
Right?
No.
You can't force anybody to change their lifestyle because that connection to food also equals their freedom, their liberty, and their enjoyment, right? So one thing that I would suggest anybody when you have a partner that may not be consuming the foods that be more beneficial for them is instead of, if say it's like 5, I'll use the example of beer, right? Let's say they have beer 5 nights a week, right? Instead of saying no more beer, instead of 5, let's go down to 4.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now that's something where it's like you're not taking anything away from that person.
You're not depriving them. They don't feel like they're being punished.
Especially as an adult.
Oh yeah. You know what I'm saying? You're setting your ways.
I don't want to feel like you're over here parenting me as to what I should be eating or what I'm doing. So let's find out a way that I'm eating something that's good for me, but also I'm not like feeling like I'm the kid in this whole situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's he just reminded me of how you want to know how I convinced my dad to start eating more healthily?
How?
I think I told you this story. Because you talk about my mom would be like, he's still eating rice, he's still doing this, like 11 p.m. he's not going to the gym as much. And yeah, you're right. You can't force somebody to just stop doing what they're doing all of a sudden.
Right.
But what remember, I think I told you this. One day I was having a phone conversation with my dad and I said, "Pa, do you think would you..."
And your background for the people?
Filipino.
You're Filipino.
Oh yeah,
okay.
like rice.
So you know
rice with everything. Rice is like water. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So imagine trying to convince a 60-plus-year-old Filipino man to stop eating rice and stop eating meat. Same thing. Like us, very greasy, very meat heavy, carb heavy.
Right.
You know, so same thing with Ghanaian culture. And you know, so anyway, one day I was like, I'm giving up. I'm not trying to convince my dad to stop eating this and that. He's set in his ways. I was like, I'm done trying to convince my dad.
Yeah.
I don't even live there. So if my mom can't convince him, I can't convince him.
Now you're done.
But I did say one time, I said, how would you feel if somebody else were to walk me down the aisle because you're gone? I was just saying, like, kind of jokingly. Right. And I'm like, and then also like, oh, like, what if you don't get to see your grandkids? Ha ha ha. 2 weeks later, I'm talking to my mom on the phone, and we're just chopping it up. She's like, "Oh, your dad just got home from the gym." I was like, "Really?" She's like, "Yeah, he's been going hard the last 2 weeks. He even stopped eating rice." I was like, "What?" Yeah, he's and then like 2 months later, he ended up losing 20 pounds.
Wow.
Jyima, I was like, I didn't confirm this with my dad, but I'm like, I wonder if it's what I said. Wow. Right? So I wasn't forcing him, but I painted a scenario for him.
Well, you know what you did is you gave him a why.
A why.
Everybody needs a why.
Huge.
Because other than that, I'm just going to do whatever I want, right?
Yeah.
If I feel like having a donut, I'm going to have a donut. If I feel like having fried chicken, I'm going to fried chicken.
Yeah.
Unless there's a reason that connects with me.
Yes.
It can't be just like, don't you want to be healthy?
Right.
No.
Don't you want to look good?
I'm good.
Yeah.
It has to be a reason that connects with me.
Sure.
So that when I hear it, I'm like, you know what? That is important to me.
Yeah.
And that's what you gave him was that why.
I didn't even know realize what I was doing, but yeah, we came down to the why.
Wow, that's so dope. That's so dope. Well, as always, and I have to let you know, I'm going to have to get Chris on here to get the dual perspective as far as
gotta be
exercise.
Fair. You're right. We gotta be fair.
You know?
Yeah.
So we'll look out for that.
All right.